creativity, when we look at it in different ways, it still comes, I believe it still comes from our spirit side, from our intuition. So don't feel that creativity, you're restricted to just doing drawings or just doing this or just doing that, because it's such a big, wide scope.
Welcome to Story Power, a bi-monthly podcast where my guests and I geek out about the stories we're passionate about in all different genres, styles, and formats. My name is Lucinda Sage-Midgorden, and I started this podcast in the summer of 2020 at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. As I watched the reaction of my friends, family, and social media circle, I noticed that many people turned to stories for comfort and help in making sense of the craziness going on around them. My goal was to do the same for my listeners, but as I chatted with my guests throughout the first year, I discovered that their personal stories were the most fascinating thing about each episode. Neil Gaiman says, fairy tales are more than true not because they tell us that dragons exist, but because they tell us that dragons can be beaten. I now know that sharing our experiences with others helps us defeat our own dragons. It is our stories that connect us to one another. Let's see what wisdom today's guest has to share with us. Today, my guest is Susan Jane, and she is an intuition teacher, and she has a podcast. And is it called The Voice of Intuition? Is that the name of your podcast?
Yes, it is. It started off as The Art of Intuition, and then I've gone to The Voice of Intuition.
Oh, Susan, I forgot to say, welcome to the show. Susan, welcome to the show.
Oh, this is going to be fun.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit tired today. Okay. So Susan, you teach intuition. You have this great website, The Art of Intuition, and now you have a podcast as well. And you said that you won some international awards, and I wanted to hear about that. But also, how did you get started teaching intuition, and then how did that grow into the website and the podcast and all of that? So, do you want to tell your story?
Yes, I will start. So there's sort of two levels to my story. One of them is the intuition side of it, and how I went to Susan Jane, the intuitist. So the mentalist does everything we think about, and the intuitist does everything we feel about. But so that's that whole concept of my life from the start to where I am now. However, when we start to look at a business side of it, one of the things that I did do is I followed my intuition. I had my own small natural therapies clinic. I was doing massage. I was doing healings. I was doing like Reiki style healings, doing a lot of different things in a one-on-one context. Now, I loved it that much, and I loved helping people that much. I wanted to actually step further out, and I couldn't do that in the way that I was traveling at that particular stage. So I thought I needed to get more qualifications, a better understanding, and allow myself to be able to help other people grow and develop. So I'd done a lot of it myself through my 20-year emotionally abusive relationship and all the rest of it. But I wanted to go back to school. I wanted to go back to uni. Now, it was really strange when I went back to uni, because the thing was I followed my intuition all the way along. I remember a girlfriend of mine saying, you're putting renters into your own home, and you're moving quite a distance away, like 3 hours away, to attend university. How do you know you're going to even get in? Well, I never, ever questioned that. All the ducks fell into a row, and I knew that that's what I needed to do. So I put renters in my own home. I put a manager into my own business, and I left my 3 children, who had left home by that stage anyway, but they were still living in the area, and I'd left them to it. And I pursued my own career, and I went back to full-time uni and worked 3 part-time jobs. Now, this was all, like I said, very, very intuitive. It was all coming to me. It was like nothing was stopping me. Everything, the stepping stones were being placed in front of me, which I knew I was following my intuition. I knew it was the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
However, 6 months after I finished my 3-year uni degree on public health, and it was health promotion, so it was me being able to get out to the greater community, all the government changed hands and all the public health jobs were made redundant. There was a 3-year degree where I'd thrown everything in and moved, done their degree, and there was no jobs, nothing.
No. Oh. And this is in Australia, right? I forgot to say that. You live in Australia.
Yes, yes. So as everything changed, the government changed, it just wiped everything out. It was I'd have to, if I wanted to pursue that career, I would have had to move 2 states away from my family then, instead of 3 hours away.
Oh, no.
So it was a real big, what the,
Mm-hmm.
moment.
Mm-hmm.
Or a WTF, as I call it. And when you're following your intuition, you feel like you're doing all the right things. And I really do felt that I was doing all the right things. So to have this brick wall shoved straight in my face was really, really challenging. And so I had to sit with it for a while. And that's the nice terminology. The other terminology is rant, scream, cry, carry on. But that's the true terminology. Like it's, oh my God, what am I doing? But anyway, I sat with it for a little while and thought I needed to get a job. Mm-hmm. So I got work, which was fine. And then I went, okay, well, I know I did the right thing by following my intuition. I know I did the right thing. Why is it that there's something different here? And that's when I came to the realization is that I needed that skill set. I needed that confidence to be able to create, to go online. Like it was that interim period when I went to university where PCs were just becoming the norm, So, yeah. So, I was 48 at the time. So 3 years of getting an understanding of software, getting an understanding of the hardware, getting an understanding of what the internet is, and getting an understanding of how to write and because you had to do assignments, you had to write them and you had to write them in the right context and you had to make sure you researched properly and all the rest. So I got a lot of skills that I didn't have before. And it was those skills that gave me the confidence to actually start my own business. A lot of people don't need to have those skills. They just need the drive and the determination. I'm a little bit nerdy. I'm a little bit analytical. So I like to have those skills before I go into things like that. Or I follow my gut, follow the intuition. Mm-hmm. So I had these skills and I could then transfer them into something else. And that's when I went, okay, I'm going to start writing a book. That was coming to me. And this was my big aha moment as I started to gather the information. I started to do a bit of research on the book, but as I was doing the research, I was really getting a lot of downloads, what I call downloads. And that's not computer downloads. This is my head downloads. So I started to channel through this information. And that's sort of where I went from there. So that's sort of the basic behind why I started my business. The whole thing was, I did a uni degree thinking I was going to have this career and it just completely flipped on its head. And the only thing I could think of was just to write a book, to do a job so I had money coming in and then to write a book. And that was the beginning then of the business side. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, it does. Yeah, because I think that's how a lot of the people that I talk to, it's one step at a time. So they love music and they learn how to play the instruments, and then they, something happens and they meet someone or they get asked to be in a band or who knows what. But yeah, so their artwork develops a little at a time, and they're kind of doing what you're doing. They're just following they're following their gut.
Yeah.
and their passion. So it sounds to me like you have a passion for intuition and helping other people develop their intuition. And then what is the name of the book that you wrote?
The book is called Intuitive Flowers, Empowering Your Emotional Goals.
Oh, nice. Is it still for sale?
Absolutely. It's on Amazon. Yes. Yes.
Oh, good. Oh, good. So I'll put that link in the show notes.
Yeah, cool. So what I've looked at, because we have SMART goals, and excuse me, the when I went to uni, it was all about a SMART goal. Like I went, and it needs to be specific. I always have trouble with that word, specific. It needs to be measurable. It needs to be attainable. It needs to be reliable. It needs to be timely. We have those SMART goals, but it doesn't affect our emotions. And I remember when I had to do a SMART goal, and some of this was in uni and some of this is in work. I had to do a SMART goal, and I'm thinking, well, I want to help people develop their intuition. I want to empower women to step up and be themselves and not be squashed by other people. But how do you put that into a SMART goal? And it was very, very analytical. And it's like, I wanted something different. I wanted to have an emotional goal, because like uni, I did the SMART goal. I set it all up. I got it all organized. I got to the end and I had nothing. And I didn't have that because there's not the emotional attachment to it. So that's when all of a sudden all these emotional goals started to come in. It's like, this is how I want to feel. This is how I want to be. I get on podcasts and I do my own podcast, as you know. And it's like the feeling you get when you're interviewing and talking to different people, that's not something you can put down as a SMART goal.
Right.
It's an emotional goal. It's so loving and so generous and so kind. And it's just really, really joyful. And these are the sort of goals that I wanted to look at. So with the flower readings, what we do is we start to have a look at an emotional goal. So an emotional goal could be, when I did it, because I am a theory tester, okay? I'll put that out there now for the world to know I'm a theory tester. Any books I read, anything I do, I test it. And I did the same with my book, because I'd written it all. And then I went, you know what? I need to have an example. I need to test this theory. So I looked at work, my business or the book, and where it was going to go, where the business was. I wanted to take the business. And I started to feel it, and I started to get the emotional attachment to it. And it was like, this is what I want to do. And I didn't know exactly what it looked like, but I knew what it felt like. And I had this real loving, overwhelming feeling in the heart center. It was like, I'm just wanting to give and give and give all this love and watch these people go, oh, that makes sense. Oh, that makes sense. I get it. And I could feel myself empowering these people, and mainly women, but empowering people. It's giving me goosebumps now. The feeling was so, so wonderful. And then I thought to myself, okay, what would that look like in a flower? And straight away I came up with this deep pink and white, and it was in a round shape.
Oh.
Now, I didn't know what type of flower it was. I couldn't tell you, but that's what we've got Google for. So jumped onto Google and went pink and white flower. And you can imagine how many millions of those there are. So started to scroll through them. And then there'd be one that would jump out and I'd go, oh, that's sort of what I was feeling and seeing. And I'd save that. And then there was another one, and then there was another one. Then I came across one and I went, wow, that's exactly it. That's how I'm feeling. That image is representing how I'm feeling. I really connected intuitively with it. Then with that image, I tried to change it because it was a landscape image and I didn't want the landscape image. I wanted a square image, me being very neutral. I changed the image and lost the feeling.
Oh.
So then put it back to the landscape image. And that landscape image is in my book because I use it as an example so people get an understanding on how to do the reading. So the big aha moment I had with this particular flower, this particular image, is that the goal was quite small, and it was a water lily, not a lotus, but a water lily. It was quite small. But what was around it was these great big round water lily leaves. Now, leaves are our guides. Petals are our attraction, leaves are our guides, and these were big round ones. So they were the shape, round is feminine, so they were feminine, and they were all over the image, which means they were down the front, down the bottom, which is the physical aspect, physical feminine guidance, and spiritual aspects, spiritual feminine guidance. And they were in the past, and there was a couple in the future. So it was my biggest aha moment was, and me being a really, really independent person, I had to actually connect with other women to help me achieve my business. So that was my big aha moment in that context. So that's how flower reading's done. That's my tool. That's one of my tools that I use. I don't use cards, and I use flowers more so.
I love that. And color too. Because
Absolutely.
The flowers, the flowers are a color. Yeah. Yes, I've seen water lilies in Japan. I saw them in Japan. Oh, they're so beautiful.
Yeah, because water lilies grow down low, low to the water. Sorry, lotus will grow up high. They grow away from the water. So there's a very, very different context in that. But they still start with the mud and the grot and everything else. They have to go through all the water, which is emotions, as well as the colours. They have to go through all that to be able to flower to achieve that goal. So that's how I do the flower reading. So I did the book, created the book, and then of course, like everyone else, you have to market it. Like all of a sudden, I've got this book here, and I go, woohoo! Look at me, I'm a published author. Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything until you have to start selling it. And then I had to go from a introvert to more extroverted, which was a very big challenge. That's not something that I did comfortably. And that was all part of this building the business. Being an introvert, I liked to do everything in the background and just hope and pray that everything would be working in the front, and it doesn't always work like that. We are there to step through those fears and those areas. But what I did was I started to create my website, and like a lot of entrepreneurs, especially like myself, we don't have a lot of money to start these businesses. We're starting on a shoestring budget. I don't know, guys seem to have more risk taking, and they're quite happy to throw in, 10,000, let's get a business started. Well, I don't know about you, but I'd just done uni and I didn't have any money. So everything had to be done on a shoestring budget, completely shoestring. So I had to write the book. I had to learn all the software there is to make that book from an A4 Word doc into a book that, the right formatting. And you had to learn all of that. Then you had to learn how to make it an ebook. Then you had to learn how to make it a print on demand book. Then you had to learn how to work the software of Amazon to get the back end. Then you had to learn how to do Kindle, and it just kept on going. And look, I love learning, but this was just it was overwhelming. But then I had to learn WordPress and how to do that. And I had no idea what a hosting was compared to what a website was, compared to what email was. So even though I had done the uni, when you're actually creating those sort of things yourself, it is really, really challenging. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask friends or people to give you that helping hand. I know there's things on there that you learn, and you learn once and you never, ever go there again. And if it's taken you 5 hours to learn that, which it can do, or it can take a couple of weeks just to learn one thing, where you can ask somebody, you might pay, $100 or something for it, but you learn it in an hour and you never, ever need to touch it again. And I think when we're first starting up in our entrepreneurial area, we use a lot of our time and effort in learning stuff that we never, ever use again. A bit like school, really.
Yeah, really. That's true. Yeah. And I'm lucky because my husband is a graphic artist, and he's used the computer for years, and he can help me do all of that. He formatted my book and and did the cover and so on and so forth. So I'm lucky, but
Yeah.
yes, I think, but I had to learn how to use GarageBand and edit my podcasts and all of that. And now I started a Patreon community, and now I'm going to have to learn how to use a new platform for recording, because I want to have live chats with authors or artists of some sort. And so I'm going to have to learn something new again. But one of the things that I love about what you're saying is that whenever you start a creative endeavor, it doesn't matter if you're going to learn how to be a painter or a musician, or an actor or a writer, it's all step by step. So businesses are the same way. You have to start your business step by step. It doesn't all happen all at once. And I like to say the United States is a fast food society. People just want the results right now. And that's not good.
No. And unfortunately, look, I get a bit like that too. Look, like I said, I spent 3 years writing a book, and you sort of go, oh, I want to sell it now. I want to be a famous author, or you spend years and years and years teaching yourself guitar or teaching yourself a musical instrument, and you expect to be an overnight success. It just doesn't work that way. And one of the things that I learned with uni, when I went back to uni at such a late age, it wasn't about the results. Obviously, it wasn't about the results, because they put a brick wall in front of me at the end of it.
Right.
It's about the journey to get there. And when I stopped and thought about everything that I had learned at uni, it allowed me to jump that brick wall and create a whole new life, a whole new different context on it. So yes, anything is this journey, and the creativity beside it. Like I said to you, I'm quite analytical. Yet I love painting. I learned how to play the guitar. I was in a band when I was a kid, a teenager. Oh, no, actually a young adult. So, I have learned a lot of that stuff, and I've done a lot of that stuff, because creativity and the imagination is all part of our intuition. It's all that information that we're receiving intuitively. So that's the best part of it. But you can't expect... See, the other aspect I work with, Lucinda, is I work with Google Ads too. I'm a digital marketing agent. So I do a lot of, I get paid to do digital ads, because my podcast, like yours, probably isn't making any money. So it's costing us to do it. Now, we have to substitute that money somehow. Now, whether it's we pulling it out of our husband's wallet, or whether we're taking it out of our children's inheritance, we've got to get that money to be able to keep going with these podcasts. So I work as a digital. I'm a senior account manager for a digital company, digital agency. So I do a lot with Google Ads and things like that. With that in mind, that gives me my money. That gives me my money to drive my passion.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That's the part I like. So one of those other areas that people can look at when they're building their business is see if you can get into a job that's paying you, but you're learning at the same time. And what you're learning is for the benefit of your business.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. I like that. I interviewed some authors, and one of them said, writing is my full-time job. My side job is working at Walmart.
Exactly. To pay for it. Yep. That's okay.
Which I just absolutely loved that, because she used to be a manager of a Walmart, and she said, oh, that was just too stressful. So she backed off of that, and she just gets to go to work and leave. When she leaves work, she gets to leave it at work. Absolutely. And then go home and work on her creativity. So yeah, I thought that was funny. So some of us, I've been doing part-time teaching for the last 14 years, and but I'm getting ready to be done with that now. So that's why I started my Patreon community, because I thought, oh, well, if people pay a little money, like $5 a month, then I can do all this other creative stuff with my podcasts and have author chats or creative, artist chats or whatever, which follows my passion. So yeah.
And one of the things about the entrepreneur area, when people do start looking at that and they're starting to want their own business or create that own business, you'll hear a lot of people that will go, just chuck your job in and do it. And I just feel that that's such the wrong attitude, because all that is setting you up to fail. Whereas if you can work part-time and know that you're getting that finance coming in to support you, then with the rest of the time, you've got that there to follow your passion or your creativity or your drive. And so you're getting the best of both worlds. And that way, well, for me anyway, that way, my passion, creating the podcast, creating the online courses, the book, all that sort of side to it, I don't have to get finance through it. I get my love and my passion and my wealth from that side of it. And I know eventually, because I'm putting down these great foundations, I know eventually that the work, the job will eventually just dissipate, and my whole passion and everything else will have a great foundation, and it will just chug along perfectly for me.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it just takes time. And if you just chuck everything, I tried to do that at one point and it just didn't work. No. You have to, I'm not a very good multitasker. So teaching and doing the podcast and my blog and all this other, I just have to compartmentalize my brain. So right now I'm doing, I'm grading, or I'm doing things for the club and now I'm doing something for the podcast, and now I'm working on my book or doing my blog. I have to compartmentalize my brain in order to do that, so that I am only concentrating on one thing at a time.
Yes, and I'm like that too. And I think that's that analytical side of us where we need to have that structure. When I start to blend different things, I start to go off on different tangents, and I don't really achieve what it is I want to achieve. So yes, I'm very much like that. It's like, okay, doing the podcast now, focus, we tuned in, we're turned on, we're tapped in, we know what we're doing. Let's do that. And then once that's done, okay, might have a cup of tea, might just chill for a bit, then start the next one. And you give yourself a bit of a break with it. And not everybody's going to work that way. They've got to find their way of doing it. And that's really, really important.
Yes.
Now, as far as the business, the 2 international business awards I got, I had started my business, and this is where, like you said, this is where I chucked everything in, don't need to work. We're gonna work on my passion, gonna make millions, rah, rah, rah. Yeah, well, that didn't happen. So I thought, well, okay, the business, everything else, that side of it wasn't happening. I didn't have the online courses really. I didn't have the podcast running very much. So it was all a little bitty and everything else. Instead of sorting them out, I did the opposite. I created another business, as you do. And it was an expo. So I created the Personal Growth Expo, and I ran that for 2 years. So it was everything to do with health, wealth, and stealth. Now, stealth is everything we hide underneath the radar. So that's our emotional side of things. That's the spiritual side of things. And, we cover up on all that. So I ran these expos, and I put a lot of time and effort into them, because you put a lot of time, again, like the podcast, you put a lot of time and effort into it, and you don't see a lot of results. But when I ran this expo, that's where I won the international awards for the expos, because they were terrific. They really were terrific, but I didn't see them as terrific. I, again, had this expectation it was going to be, on this level, and it didn't come in on that level. So I was very, very disappointed. But when I started to look at the tin tacks of it all, in my very first expo, I actually made money. Now, when I say I made money, I probably made $250. when you took out all the expenses and everything else. And that's not counting the hours that I spent. But a lot of the times when you're putting an expo on, it's, like most business, it can take 5 years before you start to make any money. So, so I did it for 2 years and then COVID hit. So I haven't done that again. But that's, and when you want to go for these international business awards or any of these ones, because they have them in America, they've got a lot of them in America. We were in the Asian Pacific realm, but the American realm's there. And it's a matter of just writing it in. It's not as hard as what some people think it is. And you as a writer, you can do that. It's just making sure you get the words and the terminology in there, and creating something different. So with my writing in that, I just basically turned around and said, I trust my gut. If I want a second opinion, I listen to what my intuition's saying. That's my second opinion. This is what I feel as physical aspect, but I want a spiritual guidance. I listen to my intuition and I go from there. That's what I wrote about the Personal Growth Expo, and that's why I won the awards.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So were the Personal Growth Expos like places where people could come to a venue and there were speakers, or?
Yes, that's exactly it. We had stalls, so the stall holders paid. We did all the marketing, did the advertising for it. We had guest speakers. I was a guest speaker on one of them. It was the very, very first time I spoke in public about my attack that I had when I left my body. So that was really challenging. That was my, where I had to really sort of, zoom in on that one. But it was really good. So it was an expo. So we hired a big hall and we had all these, I bought all these beautiful tablecloths so everybody looked lovely, and it was a lovely feeling. And I think the biggest thing was, I've been to a lot of business expos and other expos. I've even been to the what do we call it? Health, Mind and Body Expo. Yeah. And the spiritual expos. None of them had the feeling and the presence that we had with the personal growth. It was everybody was there to help people, not to sell, but to help people. And that's what was really, really, selling was the secondary, the bonus.
Right.
But they were there to help, which was really lovely.
That is lovely. I love that. Yeah. So did you hold it where did you hold your expo?
That was on the Gold Coast in Australia. So in Queensland, So we had it there 2 years in a row, and then COVID hit. So
So do you plan to have any more?
No, I wasn't planning to have any more because they were really stressful.
Oh yeah, it takes so much time too.
It is. It is a really stressful sort of an area, and honestly, I don't need my life to be that stressful. I create enough stress in my own life just trying to get podcasts out and talk to people and rah rah rah. So I just didn't want to go that way again.
Yes. And how often does your podcast come out?
I do it. It comes out weekly. For me, we put it out there Thursday mornings. For you, it will be Wednesday afternoons. In America, it'll come out Wednesday afternoons. That comes out weekly. And when I first started the podcast, I'm not sure about how you went, Lucinda, but when I first started, there was a lot of me talking because nobody knows you. I didn't have any guests. I was trying to find friends to come on. And it wasn't until I got onto the Podmatch that I realised that I could, find people to interview. So once that happened, now I'm booked up now 2 or 3 months in advance as far as guest goes. And I've got a lot of people asking me now externally, out of not just in Podmatch, but externally, which is really lovely. It means we're getting out there to the public and helping those people that need the help or just the understanding. When I was when I first started doing all my spiritual work and started to get that understanding, we only had books. We didn't have podcasts. We didn't have internet in those days. That's how long ago. We only had books. And so, you take home, I would take home, we'd only go shopping every 4 to 6 weeks because we were about an hour away from the shops, and we lived in this seaside community. So I'd race into town. We'd go into town to do our shop, take the 3 kids into the library, and we would get out, we could get out 10 books each. So I would do that each time I went in. I'd grab 10 books, and they were all self-help books, whether it was finance, whether it was personal, whether it was business. I just enjoyed reading that sort of stuff. And I would take it home. And like I said, I was a theory tester. If it resonated with me, I would test it. If it didn't resonate with me, I just didn't read it. And the podcasts are exactly the same. You can listen to them, but one of the things I did do is I always read the book right through to the end in case it did get better. But podcasts are the same. You need to listen to them and take on board what resonates with you and let go of the rest. It doesn't mean it's wrong or right. It just means it doesn't resonate with you. And that's okay, because that means you're connecting with your intuition, and it's sort of going, oh, that doesn't make sense to me. I'm not going to follow that. Cool. That's what it's all about. It's about you understanding you and knowing what you like or what resonates with you and what doesn't. And that's one of the things that I didn't know as a young woman growing up type thing. It's like you don't know who you are. You don't know what you like. You don't understand that because you're only young. And one way to do it is to listen to podcasts and go, yeah, don't like that, or like that. Following people, and you sort of go, oh, I don't like what he's putting up there, or I like what she's putting up there, but I don't like that. You don't have to follow them if they don't resonate with you.
Right.
And you don't have to follow everything they say if they do resonate with you on some things.
Yes, that's so true.
I don't know why I went off on that tangent. I do apologize. But
no, you don't have to apologize, because I think that's true. I think sometimes we get into this, we don't trust ourselves, and we think, well, everybody else is following this person, or everybody else is reading this book, or everybody else is watching this TV show or listening to this podcast. And so I should too. And I should like it too. And, that's just not good.
No.
It's not trusting yourself.
No, exactly. Or you listen to them and you sort of go, well, okay, that didn't really make sense with me. You don't have to stay there, move away, move forward from it. One of the things you will find when you are starting to trust your intuition or start to follow your guidance and you start to create your own business, if your friends will start to change. Now, one of the things I really noticed when I started having children, and I had 3 kids in 3 years before I worked out what was causing it and then stopped. I'm a bit of a slow learner. But one of the things I really did notice was that the friends that I had, the single friends that I had, we no longer could do the same things because I had to cater for children. So when you're starting to create your own business, you will find that your friends may start to change because you have to cater for your own business. Now, if you're working part-time and doing your own business in the other time, you will find that it takes up a lot of your time. So your friends may change. And when you start to develop your intuition and start to really connect with it, and follow that guidance, you will find anyone that's negative, anyone that's not resonating with you, it will change. And sometimes it's hard, but it is for the better because we need to be around those people that lift us up, not those people that drag us down. And following Instagram and Facebook people can do exactly the same as that. You think that's how you want to be. And in reality, especially some of these high profile people that you sort of go, oh, aren't they wonderful? I want to be like that. I want to be like that when I grow up. That can actually drag you down because you're not like that. And you can actually go into the opposite spin and go into a negative connotation on it. So be mindful about who you're following. One of the things I do in my Trust Mastery program is about getting rid of some of those followings that you don't longer need and creating those boundaries that you do need. So, Sorry, again, I've gone off trend.
No, but my sister and I were talking about that very same thing today, that there are people, or groups mostly. There are groups business groups that I started to follow mostly on Facebook. I don't think I follow any on Instagram. And it's they want me to do business in a certain way, and it doesn't fit for me. And so I'm going to get rid of those groups. I'm going to leave those groups. That's what I'm going to do.
Perfect. Yeah. And that's exactly right. It's not that they're wrong. It's just not resonating with you. Right. And I've found that people like yourself and these people in the community of the creativity side of it will not do business the same way as people that are in more business minded. We come from the heart. And so we want to do our marketing from the heart. We want to connect with people from the heart. We want to do our business from the heart. Mm-hmm. And when you're playing a guitar, when you're playing a musical instrument, you're playing it from the heart. Mm-hmm. Art. You're doing it from the heart. Mm-hmm. And your business should be the same. So if people are starting to say you've got to do this with your business, that's not necessarily for you.
Yes, I can't tell you how many times I went to the Small Business Development Center and tried to get them to help me make a business plan. And they wanted me to do thus and so, and, whatever it was. And it was like, that doesn't fit that kind of business that I want to do. Cost analysis and all of this. It's like, well, okay, that's not the kind of business I want, because I'm not selling anything, for one thing, yes. Except for I'm selling creativity, I guess, because that's what my podcast is all about. And I began my podcast talking to people about the stories that they loved, and it's evolved into something a little different, but still we talk about their personal stories, or the stories that they are creating, or the artwork that they're creating. So in addition to that, yeah, it's like, okay, this business thing that I tried didn't work. This business thing that I tried didn't work. And that's all part of the journey, I think.
Yes, absolutely. And finding out what does suit you. You're saying straight away, that doesn't suit me, doesn't feel right. So you're getting an understanding, okay, so that area of the business isn't suitable for me. So maybe that area of the business, when it does come to light and I do need that, maybe I can pay somebody to do that side of it, and get a better understanding of that. But yeah, you've got to go with what you're doing. And what you're doing now at this stage is that you're creating those wonderful foundations, and you're tweaking them and you're changing them, and you're seeing what's resonating with you and you're seeing what's not resonating with you, and you're getting a really good understanding of it. But the biggest thing about these heart-centered businesses, which is what I call it ours, is that we're authentic. We are authentic. And that is the biggest area, because of social media, because of the internet. If we can't find somebody that's authentic, you're not going to go with them. My niece started following, she's a hairdresser. She started following this lady who was a business support or something to that effect. She's paying big money per month to be with this lady, and this lady was running through and telling her what to do. And I remember talking to her, chatting with her, and I said, well, Chris, how is she helping you? Like, what have you done with it? And she goes, oh, well, each month you get jobs to do, and I said, well, that's an online course. That's not business. That's not, consultancy or anything like that. I said, you're having trouble with your staff. I said, well, what has she said about that? Oh, you don't have connection like that with her. I said, well, you're paying that sort of money and all you're getting is an online course, because if you don't connect with her, then you're not really getting consultancy, anything like that. And yet she's charging you those prices. And, I said, as far as I'm concerned, the first thing that you need help with, if you came to me for business consultancy, the first thing that you need help with is how you're going to work with your staff. What do you need to do? What do we need to put into place? Because that's what you're having difficulty. But she's teaching you how to post on Facebook, what to put on Instagram, which is all very nice, but not suitable if you're having trouble with staff, or you can't get staff, or there's problems with the staff. And, that was sort of her little bit of aha moment. If you're going to pay people to help you, be mindful about what you're paying for. If you're paying top dollar, you need to have that one-on-one connection. You need to have them address what your issues are, because you're having trouble with those issues. You don't just, if you're only paying a smaller amount for an online course and they're going to teach you how to do marketing, okay, that's what you're paying for. But just because somebody has got a perceived name, it doesn't mean that they're very, that they're suitable for you. And that's what happened with Chrissy. She said, oh, that's what everybody was following in the hairdressing business. So she followed them, bought the course. All their marketing was really good, but that lady was not authentic. She was not being true to those people that were paying. So that's where I go. It's all about being authentic. If I'm saying to you, I'm going to provide a podcast once a week, you guess what? You're going to get it once a week. It might not resonate with you once a week, but you're going to get it. And that's being authentic.
Yes. Right. Yeah. That's what when I started my blog, I said, okay, I'm going to write it and have it post once a week. And I've pretty much kept to that. I mean, occasionally I'll take a little break from it.
Yeah.
But since 2013, I've kept to that. Now I've changed the days upon occasion. Like I think it was Saturday when we started, and then I changed it to Wednesday, and now it's on Sunday. But it's at least it's still once a week. And I always told my readers, okay, I'm changing the day because of my teaching schedule or whatever,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Whatever it is. I'm doing it for a reason. It's not just random.
Yeah.
Or I need to take a break because I need to work on my book, or I need to do whatever it is. So
but that's authenticity. You're being authentic. You're being out there and open. And if you can't do it all the time, you're letting somebody know. You're letting them know whether they're interested or not. Doesn't matter. You're being authentic to how you want people to treat you as well.
Now, can people take online courses from you as well?
Yes, I've got the flower readings as online courses. I've got tools to develop your intuition as an online course too. So that's all about you getting an understanding of what resonates with you. What tools do you want to use? And we often use these tools to develop our intuition because it gives us that analytical look at an image or a picture, and then it opens your mind up, allows that intuitive message to come through. So that's why we use things like cards or dowsing or all these different candles, meditation, all these different things. It's they're just tools to help you develop, which is perfect. We need those. Building a house, you need tools. So having these tools to help us is really good. So most of the online courses are the tools to help you. Flower readings. The whole idea with flower readings is I didn't want to do all the flower readings. I wanted people to learn how to do them themselves, and they can use that as a tool then. So that was where my goal was for that. My intention is for that. So there's different ones. When I do some of the flower, I do group ones now with the flower readings, and it's like those sip and paint. Do you have sip and paint in Australia in America, where you have a group get together and they have a glass of wine and they paint something?
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm doing it in a similar context to that, where they're actually drawing with the pencil, watercolor pencils, and then they add water to it. They actually draw their flower, and then we do a reading on it. So we call it intuitive art drawings.
So each person could be doing a different flower.
Absolutely. But they're doing a flower. So they're still doing their emotional goal, and then we go through and read them. What does the stem mean? What does the petals mean? How many guides have you put in to achieve that goal? And they're drawing it from their intuition because they have no idea. One lady, she was really funny. She said to me, when you did the meditation, she goes, the flower image I got was pink, frilly, like a hibiscus, she said. But when I started to draw, she goes, straight away I went for the yellow and the orange pencils, colours. She goes, it was completely different to what I saw to start with, but intuitively she just started drawing this particular flower. So it was really good. And the reading she got from it was amazing. It gave her a lot of clarity.
I love that. That seems like it's quite unique to have the color, the color and the flower um, telling you, helping you figure out something that you sometimes I think we hide our knowledge, our intuitive knowledge
Yes.
from ourselves. And so, yeah, using a tool like that kind of helps it come to the surface.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And we're looking at it in like there's 16 different elements in a flower drawing that we can look at, even down to, are you putting the paper landscape or portrait? How are you painting that? And that's all about your motivation behind it. And remember when I was telling you about when I did my flower, I tried to make it was a portrait, it was a landscape, and I tried to make it square and I lost the feeling. It's because my motivation and drive in a landscape is more of a negative aspect, but not in a bad way. And it's a community aspect. So often when you're doing something in that way, and I can see you getting the ahas as you're going. When you're doing something like that, you often see something in the community of a negative nature that you want to help and fix. And that's exactly what my business was about. I saw, because I'd gone through these 20 years of emotional abuse and gaslighting, they call it nowadays, because I'd gone through all that, I wanted to help other women. So for me to have this book and the image to be landscape was absolutely perfect. That's exactly what it meant, because I was there to help. I wanted to help other people in this context of that negativity and bring them out of that.
Yes. So, oh my gosh, that's so great. I love it.
Well, you've got to send me a flower picture, Lucinda, and I will actually give you I'll do a flower reading. You can pop it up on your website.
Oh, wow. Well, okay. I'm not an artist. I can't draw.
You don't need to draw. My picture wasn't a drawing. My picture was I just Googled it, remember? I just Googled it. But just get a feeling about what you want with your business, how you want to feel with your business. And then, after you get that feeling really, really strong, then sort of say to yourself, okay, what would that look like as a flower image? And even if you can get a color and a shape, then you can at least Google the color and you can Google the shape. Because there's a big difference between that. And you'll find it. Then send it to me and I'll do a reading.
Oh, I wonder if it will be different than my favorite flower, which is a calla lily. Calla lily is my favorite flower. Yeah. And I love iris too. Those two are my favorite flowers. But, maybe my business will be, I don't know, a sunflower or something.
Well, you don't know. See, when you say you've got two favorite flowers, one favorite flower could be about relationships, and one favorite flower could be about business. So it will come to you, and it's really funny because you can imagine if you were thinking about relationships with, say, your mother, you would think of a different flower to a relationship with your partner, to a relationship with your child. So you will bring up these different flowers. But if it's your favorite flower that you want to get a reading on, I can do that too.
When we lived in Portland, Oregon, and we bought this house, it was in 1949. It was built in 1949. And someone had planted all these calla lily bulbs in the front yard. And I remember the first spring when they came up, it was like, oh, these are the greatest flowers. I didn't even know what calla lilies were then. But I loved them. They were so beautiful. And then, we planted a tree in our yard. It was a pink dogwood. I loved that flower too. So yeah, I don't like I won't say that I don't like the usual flowers like roses, or I like them. It's just, they're not my favorites. I have a, kind of unusual favorites list of flowers.
Absolutely. But the reason why I did the flower readings too and went into these images, flower reading images, was mainly because when you were doing live flower readings, you're restricted to what's around you.
Right.
Or even what's growing in your your country, because we have a lot of obviously native flowers, and you have a lot of native flowers. So with a card deck, you're restricted to 50 odd cards, whatever's in there. And I didn't want people to be restricted. That's one of the things I'm really passionate about. Don't be restricted. You don't need to be. If you even think of a colour lily, you think of what sort of an image that is, because it could be up close, right up in front of you, or it could be a group of them in the back of naturally growing colour lilies. So you've got them in all different ways. And when you're taking a photo, you're taking a snapshot, you can see it in very, very different ways. That's why when I say to you, find that image, because even a rose, you talk about a rose, it could be a one in a bud, it could be fully open, it could be losing its petals. There's so many different images that we can relate to. That's why I wanted to open it right up, so people aren't restricted anymore. We don't need to be. We've got the internet. Woohoo!
That's right. That's right. Oh, that's so wonderful. So where can people find your podcast? Now it's got the new name, The Voice of Intuition. Is it on all the podcast outlets?
It's on all of them. You can still type in The Art of Intuition. You'll still find it. I believe because the URL is still The Art of Intuition, so you can still find it that way. I've really just changed the name, that context of it, or the picture. And it was because The Art of Intuition was them doing their artwork. And that's why I went, the voice sounds better for a podcast. So then, of course, me being me, you sort of get too analytical. I should have just kept it with the same one. But anyway, originally intuitive nature. Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that you're feeling better and that we got to talk. Do you have anything else you want to say?
It was all about creating your own business and creativity. You said creativity, when we look at it in different ways, it still comes, I believe it still comes from our spirit side, from our intuition. So don't feel that creativity, you're restricted to just doing drawings or just doing this or just doing that, because it's such a big, wide scope. And there's lots of different ways to do it. And I found even with because I'm analytical, even with my creativity, a lot of my creativity is done on spreadsheets where I start to work out, okay, the Trust Mastery program, and we're going to talk about it this way. And I like to see it on a spreadsheet. That becomes my creativity. And I can do the imagery to suit that. And I can do the words that suit that when I'm doing marketing. And part of that is being authentic to yourself. So when you're doing your business, part of that creativity is having that down in however format you want to do it, and create the words and the images that go with it, so you stay authentic to who you are. And that's my takeaway. Please be authentic to who you are, because we love who you are.
That's right. And everyone's unique. So everyone has something different to offer. And yeah, the creativity to me comes from not always the analytical side, but more the emotional side, or those two together is what makes the creativity. You got to merge those two. Yeah.
Yes. So and in business, we still need to have a lot of that analytical side to it, but it doesn't stop your creativity. Use that analytics to help you create your creativity. And like I said, I'm not an artist. I dabble with the paint. It never seems to work out quite how I expect it to. It's not going to stop me, though. I'm still going to play until I find something that resonates with me. And that's what it's all about. Yeah.
I love that. Oh, thank you, Susan Jane, for talking with me. This has been so fun.
It's cool. I love it.
Before I go, I'd like to give a big shout out to Podmatch, which I call a dating service for podcasters. Since I joined their platform, I have met so many wonderful people from all over the world, and they make the matches so easy that if you are a podcaster or you have a message that you want to share, you might want to consider checking them out. The affiliate link is at the bottom of my show notes on my website at Sage Woman Chronicles at sagewoman.life. Part of what I love about them is that they promote civil conversations, and can't we use that right now? So if you check them out, tell them Lucinda sent you. I'd also like to invite you to my Patreon community, where we will have chats with authors or creators. We'll have member chats about the stories that they love, and occasionally we'll have extra episodes or uncut episodes of Story Power. So please go check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/storypower without the hyphen, all one word. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you like what you heard, please share it with a friend and give us a review on your favorite podcast app. It will help people find us. You'll find the show notes for this episode at my website, Sage Woman Chronicles at sagewoman.life. You can leave a comment there. And remember, as Philip Pullman said, after nourishment, shelter, and companionship, stories are the thing we need most in the world. Until next time, this is Lucinda Sage-Midgorden. Thanks for listening.